So I get lots of requests about brushes and tools and things like that. So I think I've got about 11 here, which I consider to be part of an essential sort of everyday kit. So I'm going to go through them. The first one is a powder brush. This really only has one use, and that is to apply your finishing powders. You can also use it sort of squeezed to put on blusher if you don't want to take too many brushes with you if you're going somewhere, but that's essentially what I use this for. It's for dusting lightly over the face, pressing in powder and removing the excess. Although it only has kind of the one use, it is sort of essential. There's not really another brush that can do that. So brush number one, a powder brush. This particular one is the e.l.f. Bamboo. Second up is a foundation brush. Some people like to use their fingers or a sponge, but this for me gives the best control and the best delivery. Fingers are great depending on the actual formulation, but you can always use one of these. And this particular one is by the Makeup Brush Company. And it's a lovely dense Taklon fibre. It's really easy to clean as well. You can really kind of scrub it and get everything out of the bristles. And it comes back to a nice soft tapered point like this. In my clutches I have other brushes here. This is a large concealer brush, also by the Makeup Brush Company, and it's really fine at the tip, so it's absolutely fantastic for getting into different areas around the nose. The next one is a large concealer brush like this, which is just a little bit more, it gives you more control than say a foundation brush, which is thicker. So it's good for doing large areas, for patting on concealer and so on. But another great brush is this sort of large flat eyeshadow brush, which is also a great blending brush, as well as for applying eyeshadow flat onto the eyelid. This is also a Taklon brush. By Taklon I mean synthetic, so it works with liquids and creams as well as powders. Now next up is a rather odd brush that you're not going to find really in many makeup stores, and that is a small fan brush. If I sort of do that you can see it. It's tiny, it's absolutely tiny, and this is actually a nail art brush. You can tell it sort of says nail art on it, but it is superb for blending. It really does blend to a flawless finish if you're using concealers and foundations, especially camouflage products as well. So this I just bought for a couple of pounds in a nail art set, but it's actually been invaluable. It's really great for applying and blending foundations. Next up you need a blusher brush, and this again, it's an e.l.f. Studio. It's a Taklon brush, so you can use it with creams and liquids for your blushes. It's great because you can get the fatter part onto you, or you can sculpt with it, or just sweep like so. It's brilliant. Now I'm going to move on to a couple of eye brushes. You really don't need that many. I've got 4 in my selection here. And so we have, I talked about this before, this is just a flat synthetic brush for your base or your cream and for patting on your pigments and so on so they don't fall. Then I have 2 blenders here. Oh, and by the way, that's by Afterglow, that particular brush. This is an Urban Decay blender brush. This is the e.l.f. regular Essentials blender brush. Both are fluffy but firm, so they're really good for just bringing over colour and merging those colours. Blender brushes I find are quite sort of important, the most important brush for getting that nice finish, but you can see the difference. This one is £1.50, this one was about £9, but essentially they're both, for me, they're both the same. But you need to have as many as possible because you're often blending different things together and you want to make sure that the colours are seamless. You don't want to pull too dark a colour over. So yes, that's eye brushes in a nutshell. And then finally, you need a really good lip brush. And again, the Makeup Brush Company comes up tops for me because this is the biggest lip brush I've ever seen. This is a standard lip brush generally. It looks a bit like, let me grab one, a bit like this. So a standard lip brush, plus this one. It's about 3 times the size. This one is used, so I'll just pop that back in there. It comes like this in a lovely tube, but it is very accurate. Just because it's big doesn't mean that you can't get that lovely smooth line with it. So find a good generous lip brush, and if you can't find one like this, then a regular brush will do. So this one is just a regular brush. It has to be quite thin so that you can get into all of the areas. But that's my sort of whistle-stop tour of brushes. 11 brushes and you'll survive. Everything else is pretty much a multiple of that. I have lots of these different brushes. They may look a bit different. I mean, that's a Body Shop brush, but it's still a powder brush, so it's still akin to that one. And it's personal preference really of what you like to use, how you like to use it. But for me, this is my core group of brushes that I love using and work really well. The final brush that I forgot to mention is a fine liner brush, which you can use for lips and eyes, also detail work, anything really. So that's it, 11 or so brushes that are essential to me, and I've taken time to sort of figure out what works for me in the way I work. So I hope that's useful to you. Do leave a comment below and let me know your favourite brushes.